Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do a book tag today. It's called the Guilty Reader Tag. It was created by ReadLikeWildfire, and I have her video linked down below as well as all the questions. So I'm just going to jump into this and hopefully have some fun. So question number 1 is, have you ever regifted a book that you've been given? Not that I remember. I don't remember getting a book from somebody and then giving it away. I have to admit, I haven't actually received a whole many books in my life, most of the time because people always think I already have all the books that I want. They just give me money or gift cards to go get my own book because I read so much. They never know what to get me. So, but I do actually kind of remember buying a book, reading it, and then giving it away, that book, because I read it before I gave it away because I wanted to read them first. So I do remember doing that with one series. What is it? Diane Duane, the So You Are a Wizard series, I think. I bought them and read them, and then gave my friend wanted them, and I gave them to her after I read them. So I had to be really careful holding them. So I think that's the closest I can say of that. So, question number 2 is, have you ever said you've read a book when you haven't? I was trying to think about this, and I think the closest I came is that there's a lot of classics or modern literature that I read in college for my classes that I read most of it but didn't finish it, because there was so much reading to be done in college and all those papers to write. And I know one of the books that I've said I've read to people that technically I never finished, which I need to. It's on my list of ones I want to try to get to, is On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I don't recall a whole lot of it now, but for many years I always said I read it when people asked me, and I hadn't finished it, so I wasn't technically lying because I had read most of it. I just said I read it. I didn't say I finished it. I don't know. Question number 3 is, have you ever borrowed a book and not returned it? So I have a book that I got when I was, 13 or 14 years old from a friend of mine in middle school, and it's right there, The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. And I remember her giving it to me to read, and I remember reading it and completely enjoying it. I have no memory of if she gifted it to me or I was supposed to give it back, and I just didn't get it back in time before the end of the school year. And then since she was younger than I was, we didn't go to the same school the next year, so I never ran into her, and she didn't come to the same high school as I did after that the next year. So I don't actually remember if I was supposed to give it back or if she actually gifted it to me. So that's kind of my iffy book. I'm not quite sure on that. So, but that was when I was younger. I don't, selfish little Amy. Anyway, question number 4 is, have you ever read a series out of order? In high school, when I was trying a lot of different kinds of books, I'd pick up stuff from the used bookstore all the time. I picked up Elfstones of Shannara by Terry Brooks, and it was the second book in the series, and I read it thinking I didn't have to read book 1. I mean, technically, I guess I didn't have to because it's like in a companion series kind of. Well, I mean, it's in a series, but I mean, they were different characters from each book. But it probably would have made more sense if I read the first book. But for some reason, I started with the second one, and I regret that because I've never gone back and read any other books. I only read that one book, and then I did it again with Jennifer Robertson. I think it was the book 2, which I think was Sword Dancer, or else that was the first one. Whatever the second book was, I read that by accident, and I couldn't understand why I didn't understand, like, the first half of it. I was so confused, and then I finally figured it out, or somebody told me that it was actually the second book. So by that point, I just finished the book out, and I've never returned to that series either. So after those 2 instances, I have always been very careful about picking up the first book in every series, or reading a lot of authors' stuff in order, just to make sure I don't, especially if they do it all in the same world, but they're companion novels. As long as I start with the first one in that world, then I'm good. Even if I didn't buy the first book or bought some other book, then I would go back and find the first book. So anyway, so I've learned my lesson on that one. Now I'm like, I have to read it all in order. I don't care. I have to do it. Let's see here. Number 5, have you ever spoiled a book for someone? One of my friends made me tell her the end of American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I think we had to read this for a book club, and she didn't get to the end of it by the time we were having the book club. And so she asked me to explain what happened so that, she was in on the discussion. And I didn't want to do it. I actually was like, no, you should really read it, or, don't come to the meeting, read it later or whatever, like I was trying to come up with everything. But she was like, no, tell me. And anyway, I fell for it and I told her, and I still feel bad that I spoiled that for her. But that's only, it was intentional. She told me to do it. I probably have spoiled things for people without realizing it, but I don't remember anybody coming out and saying, hey, you shouldn't have told me that kind of thing. So I try to be very careful about that. I personally, even here watching BookTube, I am very careful that if someone's talking about a book that I intend to read pretty soon, I don't listen to their review. I just kind of want to hear if they liked it or not, and then I don't want to hear anymore because I have been spoiled on a few little plot points on some books that I got recently that I'm not happy about knowing. And I really don't want to know that stuff. I like to go in with just the premise and knowing a little bit to get that so I don't like to spoil people, so I don't want people to spoil me. Question number 6 is, have you ever dog-eared a book? No. Why would I do that? I have a million bookmarks. And why would I want to ruin my books? I don't know. I've never liked to dog ear. I don't underline in my books. I don't write in my books. I don't even tag or put little tabs on my books very often. Maybe for the book club, I might tab a section or something if I want to talk about it at the book club. But most of the time, no, I don't do that to my books. I did it in college because we had to write papers, so I was writing stuff up. So now I write my little simple reviews for myself to remind myself what the books are like as I read them. But I don't write in my books, and I don't dog ear. No. Because, no. Number 7, have you ever told someone you don't own a book when you do? Now, when I first read this question, I didn't think anything of it, and of course my answer is no. I think pretty sure that I tell people that, if I have a book, I have it. I don't feel guilty about that. But I saw some people say that they tell people that they don't have a book because they don't want people to borrow their books. And I would say that probably going forward, in the last couple of years, I probably would say the same thing on certain books, because I let a friend of mine borrow a set of books, and I never got them back, and I had to actually rebuy the books, and that really kind of upset me, because it just, they weren't cheap books either. So, I guess I'm much more careful of who I let borrow my books. Like, my dad borrows my books all the time, and I don't expect to get them back for, like, months. But the thing is that I know where they are if I need them, or, But I don't think I've ever told someone I didn't own something so they wouldn't borrow it, but I might be doing that going forward. I don't know. We'll have to see. Number 8, have you ever told someone that you haven't read a book when you have? I don't lie about what I've read or what I haven't read. I may have a disclaimer, like, a friend of mine made me read Twilight, and, again, at the time I was in my 30s, and I didn't really want to read that book, but she was adamant that I read it so we could talk about it, because she liked it, and I'm like, I didn't like it. Anyway, so, but saying that doesn't mean I'll say I read it. I'll be able to say, hey, I read it. I know what I'm talking about. And I can actually bash something because I actually read it. So I know. Anyway, I don't lie about what I read. I don't have a problem with that. Number 9, have you ever skipped a chapter or a section of a book? I skim once in a while, but I've never like jumped over a whole chapter or something. Even if I don't like the character or I don't like something that's happening, if I want to continue reading that book, I know that chapter's in there for a reason. I may not know what it is right at that point, but I might be more skimming dialogue and actions, and maybe skipping over descriptions just to get through it. I've done that, it's happened a lot on books that I did not like, and just to get myself through it. Like, if there's just a section I always hate this perspective, I just kind of go through it as quickly as possible to get to the parts I like. So I would say I do that. Number 10, have you ever badmouthed a book you actually liked? Not that I recall, like viciously just to jump on a bandwagon, but I will look at something that I've really liked, and if somebody brings up something that I did not think about or did not realize was a problem, then I will reassess how I like it and be able to have a good discussion with somebody of saying, you know, like, I didn't see that, so what do you know, how do you find that, you know, a problem or whatever, or find that problematic, or, you know, maybe something wasn't written well enough to explain and I assumed something. It's just, I would discuss it. I don't know if I'd actually go as far as say bad-mouthing something I like, because if I turn out, I find something that, that I am bad-mouthing, that obviously means I don't like the book. I'm much more, I will have a discussion and be able to say, hey, maybe that is a problem, but I still got over it and I still liked it for other reasons. So, I don't know. That's my answer. So, that's the guilty reader tag. I don't think I'm super guilty reader, but, you know, we all have our things. So, anyway, I don't know how to tag anybody on this, but if you want to do it and let me know. I'd love to see your video. And, anyway, so that was great. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.